movie starts showing an empty school where something terrible has happened. Dr. Stern, who is a therapist, arrives and sees a hole in the building. She goes inside and finds a terrified little girl with her orange headphones. Dr. Stern gives her comfort and tells her that everything will be okay. Her name is Wendy. Many years later, we can see that she is married now and has one husband named Lars. They have a son named Carl. She also takes blue-colored pills after she wakes up. While everyone had breakfast, Wendy opens a letter in which it shows that her rent is due. After having breakfast, Lars takes his son to school. Before leaving, he tells Wendy to not worry and she tells her that she is going to get that promotion. Wendy is working in a restaurant cafe with his coworker named Elmore. That day, she goes to her boss and tells her that she has been working there for 3 years and deserves promotion. Her boss turns it down and gives her more work. When she goes to throw garbage, she sees that the woman parked her car in a handicapped spot. She tells her to move her car but gets ignored. Near the garbage dump, a homeless guy asks her for chicken in exchange for a piece of bread. Wendy's boss yells at him and scares him off. But after she leaves, Wendy gives her some remaining chicken from the back. The homeless guy tells Wendy that she is one of us and leaves. While going home, some gang members try to flirt with Wendy. She accidentally attacks a homeless guy from an earlier scene. He introduced himself as Marek. He tells her that she should stop taking her blue pills, which she has been taking all these years. Wendy is confused and asks him why she should stop. Marek tells her that pills are suppressing their superpowers. He used to take them, but when he stopped, he discovered that he was invincible. To prove himself, Marek jumps down from the bridge. Wendy sees that he is still alive, but a truck runs over him. Wendy gets shocked and calls an ambulance. She cried in front of his husband that night, thinking that the homeless guy was no more. She shares this story with her therapist, Dr. Stern. She increases Wendy's medication and tells her to take 4 pills instead of 2. Next day, while Wendy is outside, Marek arrives. Wendy is shocked and asks him how he is alive. Marek tells her about his superpowers and gives her an address. He runs away when Wendy's boss arrives. Wendy's boss scolds her and tells her that she should be strong enough to handle homeless people like him. She also tells her that it doesn't look good on her promotion. She goes to the bathroom to take her pills, but this time she throws them away in the toilet. As a result, she won't be able to sleep. Next day at work, she bends the milk plate accidentally. She tries to fix it but makes it worse. She hides the plate from her boss. On the way to her home, she comes across the gang members again. Wendy challenges them. One of the gang members tries to force himself, but Wendy overpowers him. She also beats the other 2 guys with her strength. Next day, Dr. Stern visits her at work. She asks Wendy about the pills that she stopped taking and asks her to visit her. Later, we focus on the story of Elmore, who thinks he is the protagonist of the story. His real mother is no more and his father has a new girlfriend who he calls a mom, which she doesn't like. His father gives him lectures about not completing his studies and doing waiter's job. They get into arguments. Meanwhile, Wendy's boss finds a broken plate and scolds her. Wendy gets angry and lifts her boss up and threatens her. Elmore sees that something has happened. Wendy then decides to go to the address given by a homeless guy named Marek. When she arrives, she notices that it is an abandoned water park. She goes inside to find her own photos indicating that Marek is stalking her. Marek arrives. Wendy tells Marek about her newly discovered powers. Marek tells Wendy that all the politicians, doctors, and common people don't want us to live with superpowers. They consider us freaks and give us pills that suppress our powers. These freaks are our family. Wendy tells Marek that she already has a family and leaves. Later, she goes to her therapist's office. She jumps through the window. She checks Dr. Stern's files and finds that her coworker, Elmar, is also a client. Meanwhile, Elmar is reading a comic book. Wendy arrives at his home and tells him not to take pills. She came across the same woman who parks in handicapped spot. This time she easily moves her car by herself. After the work, she meets Elmar, who stopped taking his pills and shows her his power of electricity using a bulb. Wendy agrees to go out with him. Later, they both have a chat about their powers. Wendy shares how her parents abandoned her. After almost kissing each other, they went to a club and started dancing. Wendy sees some guys bullying one couple. She goes there and flirts with them, luring them into the restroom. In the restroom, we can see that everyone had a great time with her. Elmar also helps her using his power. Wendy calls him Electro Man and Elmar calls her Mega Woman. When she reaches home, she gives money to her husband and does something unexpected. Later, Wendy and his family had a great time in the pool. Dr. Stern finds out about Wendy from the guys she had a good time with. Wendy brings Elmar to Marek, because he is also a freak in one of them. He shows his power to Marek and lights the water park. Marek tells them about the facility where they kept people like them. They make a plan to free everyone from the facility. Wendy tells her husband that she needs to do an extra shift and leaves. Marek, Wendy and Elmar take a van and go to the facility. At the facility, Wendy tells the guard that she needs to go to the bathroom. She asks him to join him, which turns out well for him. Elmar disables all the cameras using his powers. When they go inside, Wendy sees other patients, but the guard turns on the alarm. They all try to run from the facility, but Elmar stops because he is still thinking that he is the protagonist. Elmar knocks down everyone using his electric power. They fled the scene and had an argument later. Marek tells Elmar that he's the reason why people like them are locked. Marek reveals that he tried to use his powers, but unfortunately his wife and daughter had to pay the price. After he leaves, Elmar asks Wendy out again, but she leaves too. When she reaches home, his husband had a quarrel with her because he thinks that she is having an affair. Next day, Elmar goes to Dr. Stern and reveals that a homeless guy named Marek approached him. He exposed his location to Dr. Stern. Dr. Stern raids his hideout and takes down Marek. Elmar comes to Wendy's house where he is having a pool party for kids. They had a chat where Elmar showed her a comic book. He confesses his love to Wendy and asks her to be with him. Just like in the comic book where Mega Woman and Electro Man are partners. Wendy rejects him and he gets sad. While going out, he realizes that he is not the protagonist and just a side character. So he manipulates the signal, causing an accident. He is turning into the villain of the story. Meanwhile, Wendy's husband Lars gets mad at her because he thinks that her lover shows up at his house. Lars also reveals that he told her therapist that she stopped her medication. Wendy gets angry and they both start arguing with each other. She also tries to tell him about her superpower, but Lars ignores her and tries to call Dr. Stern. Wendy throws him on the table and leaves. Elmar, now completely turned into a villain, confronts his father. His father apologizes to him and hugs him. Wendy arrives there and witnesses Elmar's father getting electrocuted by him. Wendy tries to confront him, but he electrocutes her as well. Later, Wendy wakes up in the same facility where Dr. Stern tries to calm her down. She tells Wendy about her past. Long time ago, Wendy's principal called her mother to school. He took her orange headphones, which made Wendy very angry. As a result, she throws the table into principal by making a hole in the wall. After remembering what she has done, Wendy accepts her fate and stays in the facility. Meanwhile, Dr. Stern raises concern about Wendy's son to his father. She asks if Carl has had any emotional episodes in the past or not. Lars seems to be offended by this. Wendy starts her new life in a facility where she takes pills to suppress her powers. She notices that Marek is there, who doesn't react after seeing her. Wendy keeps taking her medication, until one night Elmar arrives there and gives her orange headphones. She tries to call guards after Elmar threatens her family. Later, we see that lights go off everywhere, including facilities. Now the door is open, Wendy and other patients in the facility sneaks out. Elmar goes to Wendy's home where he is welcomed by her husband. Elmar apologizes and asks for his hand. Meanwhile, everyone in the facility tries to run away. Dr. Stern tries to stop Wendy, but Marek saves her by sacrificing himself. Wendy punches her therapist. Before passing out, he confesses that he tried to eliminate himself many times in the past, but he failed. Now his power doesn't work anymore due to medication, so he can rest in peace. Wendy reaches her home and finds out that Elmar is there. She tries to stop him, but is overpowered by his electrical powers. Lars throws rubber gloves at her and asks her to clean up this mess. Wendy then forcefully pushes Elmar. Electricity doesn't affect her because of the rubber gloves. She punches Elmar out of the window and he drowns in the pool. Lars tells Wendy that they can have a fresh restart and spend their life together. Dr. Stern arrives at the scene, but she only finds Lars and Carl unconscious with Elmar with a board that says high voltage. In the final scene, Wendy watches her family from far away and gives a speech about how superheroes are considered freaks because common people are afraid of them. She starts her quest of finding other freaks like her, who ran away from the facility. In the post-credit scene, we found that Wendy's son Carl also has superpowers and he starts bullying other boys.